And we got a bunch of stuff to cover today. This is actually really fun for me, by the way, because I love doing live demos, and this is, instant quoting engine is one of my things here. So welcome to today's webinar. I'm Greg Paulsen from Xometry, and I'm so excited to walk you through our 7 pro tips for mastering Xometry's instant quoting engine. So the agenda is pretty simple today. We're going to show you how it works here. Before we start, though, let me lay down some groundwork. So I'm going to start with some introductions. We're going to tell you about Xometry and what we do, especially on the digital manufacturing marketplace side, and how it's all powered by this instant quoting engine. And then we're going to jump into these details, the 7 pro tips. What I love about today's presentation is diving in deep on this platform. I'm going to demonstrate to you how this could aid you in product development, all the way through sustained production. Even working across multiple teams, whether you're an engineer, a designer, a procurement lead, a manufacturer, or just plain interested in what Xometry does, I hope to show you how the instant quoting engine can streamline your custom manufacturing needs. So something really important is I love questions. I love context here. You, the audience, have an opportunity to submit questions at any time using the Q&A tab right on the GoToWebinar platform. We'll try to get to as many as possible, and usually afterwards I also build a Q&A summary as part of the recording that comes through with this webinar. And yes, this webinar is going to be recorded, and for all of you, you'll also get an email with a copy of the recording, and it'll be posted on Xometry.com as well. So yeah, lots to cover. Very exciting topic today. Let's jump in. First off, an introduction of myself. My name is Greg Paulsen. I'm the Director of Application Engineering and Marketing here at Xometry. I love to work with clients and customers, spin CAD, talk about opportunities and solutions that we have. And I've worked for over 15 years in advanced manufacturing, starting off with more of the additive manufacturing world on the industrial applied additive manufacturing side, and working into the traditional stuff, machining, injection molding, sheet metal, sheet fabrication, formative processes like extrusion and die casting, and have a very holistic view of manufacturing as a landscape. My goal as an application engineer, and we also have our solutions engineering team here at Xometry, we're here to help solve your problems. Look at what you need, figure out that time, scope, cost, what's going to work best for you, and also help suggest directions which may work well for you, whether it's a design for manufacturability or more scalable production as you move from that low volume need up to scaled work. And this is all powered through Xometry's digital manufacturing marketplace. So I'm going to spend some time talking about what that is, and then we're going to dive deep into our quoting engine. So some of you may know, if you've ever purchased parts in your life or anything custom, there's a lot of pain points in that procurement process. Now, this is just a summary slide, but it could go on and on and on. For you as someone who needs to get stuff made, you may have taken a data package, zipped it up with your CAD drawings, your technical data, and maybe a spreadsheet or a Word doc saying, please just fill in these blanks for me. Give me quotes, quantity 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, and lead times for this. And then you BCC, you blind carbon copy that out, you send it out to who you think may be able to make that, and you wait. And you wait, and then sometimes you get a response, and that response is when do you need it by, or something that doesn't really answer exactly what you need, which is just pricing and lead times. This happens all over the manufacturing space, and you're typically working at a local to local. You don't have this omnipotent vision of who can do your work well, and just adds a lot of friction, difficulty there. We also know we may have someone making our parts and things can happen. Their supply chain can get disrupted. We all just, have gone through a pandemic and other severe weather disruptions, and we see that happen in real time right now. And you're constantly kind of working, who else can make this? How can I adapt? How can I survive and keep my product going? Sellers, it's the same way. They're typically working in a local to local market. Also, a lot of small business manufacturers don't necessarily have the staff for a really long reach. They may not have the marketing dollars or the hires on hand to actually keep and get and acquire those new customers. And they're getting RFQs from all over the place. Some of those RFQs coming to them, those requests for quotes coming from those people who need parts, may be a perfect fit, and they're like, yeah, awesome. but it also can be stuff where it's a stretch for them or outside of their capacity. And this is something where you have these suppliers that are doing a lot of work on these responses and not necessarily getting return out of it. So there's inefficiencies on both sides of this marketplace. Now, that being said, we've seen this in examples in the past where there's been very inefficient markets, think taxi cab dispatches, think like hoteling systems, and then all of a sudden a digital platform came in and helped kind of consolidate that need. You can see that across travel and lodging with Airbnb, Amazon for the retail markets, PayPal for payments, Uber for transportation. And that's exactly where Xometry sees ourselves in that manufacturing space. So instead of these inefficiencies, what we do is we've created a single platform that is driven by AI tools to democratize access to manufacturing. So for you, the buyer, you have a single platform that gives you access to a whole bunch of different manufacturing solutions 24/7, where you can see, monitor whether it's your quotes or orders. And this is the instant quoting engine, spoiler alert there. So we're going to go into that. And for the sellers, they're able to see work that is AI matchmaked and gives them work on demand. So they see a marketplace where they're getting real revenue, paying jobs that are coming in regularly. They're able to take that pure work without need to find or market towards that. And we even have fintech services to give them, more regular payment schedules and stuff that actually helps their cash flow as a small business for survival as well. So we really look at this as a two-sided marketplace, all powered through the centralized platform. And with that, Xometry covers a pretty wide breadth of companies. In fact, we serve over 55,000 active buyers here at Xometry. So 55,000 customers at Xometry, and we're connected with over 10,000 suppliers, those who make things. And we get to celebrate the diversity of those suppliers. So whether that's a CNC job shop or someone who's set up with horizontal tombstones set up with 15 interchanges to do production machine work. We have that gamut, small parts, large parts, additive manufacturing, and this formative processes. Just across the bar, we're able to actually get these suppliers and help matchmake the project scope with what that supplier likes to do best. And we're continuously growing with that. And when I say solutions, I really mean solutions. This is a short list of what we're able to offer on Xometry's platform. So even on additive manufacturing, I'm offering 9 different additive manufacturing processes right now. And under each one of those, you're talking dozens and dozens of materials per platform. CNC machining, even though this looks like a short list, it's a very large group of capabilities, and we do a lot of machined work, especially custom machining through milling, 3, 4, 5 axis turning, including live turning lathes or Swiss turning, and other value-add things like EDM, grinding, gun drilling, things that may require more specialized processes. Because of the breadth of our network, we're able to actually accommodate that as well. Sheet and tube fabrication is a growing side of our business. We've done significant work there, especially on the sheet metal side and the sheet cutting side. So whether it's laser or water jet cut, we're able to do that. And what's nice about sheet cutting itself is it accommodates both metals and plastics, composites, and gasketing materials. So you could do a lot with sheet cutting, and it's a good complement in your product life cycle. And of course, these value-add services, whether that's turnkey parts with finishing, high volume production assembly services, or help you bring that production line through with formative processes like plastic injection molding or metal die casting or anything in between. Again, I could read this whole list, but I think you get the picture here. And it's all powered by the subject of today's webinar, Xometry's instant quoting engine. We want to keep it as simple as possible to jump into this platform. So our instant quoting engine starts with the upload. You upload a digital file, so that's going to be your 3D CAD file. We use AI machine learning, and I'll show you this live in just a second here, to get an AI generated instant quote. You're able to customize and configure that quote. So add quantities, materials, features, finishes, change your processes, inspection requirements, shop certifications, all that is something that's just a checkbox away for you. And press go, and we take care of the rest. So we're a very streamlined and digitized way to procure custom parts on demand. We are also offering different lead time options, whether it's expedite, standard, economy, domestic economy, international economy options are available, and everything we do is secure. We need that, definitely working with customer files on a secure platform. So we're running this on AWS GovCloud, and we hit stringent cybersecurity requirements for our field. And you may be asking about shops and shop capabilities. We meet our customers where they need us to be. So we're ISO 9001, we're AS 9100 for aerospace parts. We actually just got 16949 for automotive industry, so we're celebrating that right now, and 1345 for medical device production. So again, where you need us to be is where we're meeting you. And with the breadth of our network, we're able to even have downstream requirements to hit those needs as well. So let's jump in. 7 tips for mastering Xometry's instant quoting engine. And I'm just going to start off with the thing that's most important to me. It's making your love letter to your manufacturer, and that is configuring your quote effectively. I'm going to Alt-Tab in a second. You're going to see me Alt-Tab a lot as we're running this webinar through and go straight into our quoting site. So let's just jump into the live demo, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to check your view to make sure you see you see manufacturing on demand. Great. So this is Xometry.com as you go in right now. This is our live website. So you can see a little bit about where to start, and also you're going to see get your instant quote in a lot of different places because that's where the action happens here. But on Xometry.com, you can review different processes, learn more about them, see a little bit about our capabilities across different industries. And I always recommend you look at some of the resources across these pages as well. But I'm going to jump in with starting an instant quote, and I'm already logged in as I do this demo. Something important to note when I talk about logins is creating your account. So I already have one for the sake of this demo, but as you create your account, if you are working on behalf of a company, use your company email address. It's going to be one of the most straightforward ways for you to get service, especially when there's already people in your company working with us. You're gonna get more consistent account sales leads, and teams are gonna work through because we may have already had some experience working through with your other colleagues along the way. So highly recommend that versus a generic. Obviously, we also can do generic, and in fact, my demo account is a generic account running through. But if you are doing this on behalf of a company, managing that company account allows a lot of other features and value adds that we have within our services as well. But I'm going to click Get Your Instant Quote. So since I'm logged in, this takes me to a very important page on Xometry, which is our dashboard. This is the customized dashboard for your account. It's going to be the way where you can navigate around, whether it's starting a new quote, submitting for larger orders, or picking up where you left off. So you can see here, hey, my name is Xometry customer here. It'll have your name there. But you can see the CTA to drag and upload to get an instant quote. We take most major CAD files. So even natives like solid parts, IPTs, you could upload directly, JT files as well. Step, I always consider it the PDF of 3D models. So you could always upload a step file or parasolid and everything in between. Something to note is that if you are uploading for a quote a mesh type file, so that would be a STL or 3MF, that will only narrow down for quoting 3D printed parts. But a step file can be used for anything, or a solid file can be used for any of our processes. But if you do upload a mesh, you are limited specifically to 3D printing processes, just because of how those files work and how they would interact with traditional processes. It doesn't work out too well. I could pick up where I left off on some quotes, and we may jump into here in just a moment. I could look at my previous quotes and order history as well. And you could see some other things that we're highlighting here. So I'll tell you about Teamspace in a moment. But yeah, let's just go and drag and drop and show you what this looks like. So I have a little file here that I made in SolidWorks. I'm gonna drag and drop this in. And it's first gonna ask about any export restrictions that we have. Xometry is a company that can do ITAR work. If it's IHR restricted or EAR, you would click this. In this case, I'm going to keep it general and click no and confirm that. And we'll give it just a moment. And we're done. All right, guys, webinar's over. Just kidding, but we are just going to show you how fast the instant quoting engine works here. So upon upload of the file, a few things happened in real time. The file was interpreted via our computational geometry. Our AI and machine learning has created a prediction model saying parts like this on a competitive marketplace are typically ordered in this process. So in this case, this part here has features around it. I'm just clicking on the icon to kind of show you the 3D view of this. Features around it that could be generally accessed by a CNC machine. So it's making a guess saying parts like this would be a machine part. So it helps default that part out to something where you may already be expecting that. And we can change that, and I will change that in just a moment, but just to show you what that looks like. It's providing pricing and lead time. So not just that, in CNC machining, it's also predicting that parts like this, with this type of geometry, at this quantity, with these settings, will have this price and lead time. And so that's the predictive price. This is not an estimate. This is a buy it now price that we have here at Xometry. You go toggle between different, different economy scales. You can see how pricing and lead time updates right away. And what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to show you how to configure that even further. So I upload this file. You can see these different options. So this is down in CNC machining. Right now it's staying with a standard material like aluminum 6061. No features or finishes added to this just yet, but I can configure and add through. This is your configure part page. This will also show up if you click any of those other features to edit on demand. It'll update this page here. I can change quantities, and you can see how as I change more quantities, my pricing amortizes effectively. So a lot of this in the complexity of this part is setups to add to this, and as I add more, that setup gets amortized throughout this, especially with the CNC machining process. I could also choose and change my processes. So under additive manufacturing, we have metal 3D printing and plastic 3D printing options. So just as quickly, I could take this, let's move it to plastic 3D printing here. You can see my different plastic 3D printing technologies available. Let's move this to multi-jet fusion, which is a very common 3D printing process on an industrial scale. And I'll move it to the standard material here, which would be a nylon 12. I'll click that. You'll see how the pricing and lead time updates right away. And again, you could also see how if I move the quantities around, how that'll change. So whether it's here's a quantity 1, here's a quantity 100, you're getting pricing updating in real time. What's cool about this is this mitigates that need for the please quote quantity 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. If I need quantity 7, I just type in 7 and I get my answer right away. And this is a buy it now price. So what else can I do with the instant quoting engine? I'm going to go and move this back to, I'll move to quantity 10 here. And I'm going to move this back to CNC machining. Some of these are more specialized. Obviously, this is not a sheet part or tube part here, so you can select that through. You can also select for formative processes, but let's keep it with CNC at this time. I'll move to aluminum 6061, but just as easily, you could choose from a variety of standard materials that we have, and you'll be surprised what auto quotes here. If you want peak, it turns out we auto quote peak. That's something that's very difficult to typically quote. And like things like peak, PTFE, pricing and lead time will show up just as you need it right away. And that's stuff where a lot of times if you're thinking about a commodity shop, they may not be able to quote that. For us, it's just a click away. So I'll move it back to aluminum 6061 because this is the most standard material that you would have in CNC machining. And I want to show you what else I can do with this. So on this part here, I can also add, finishes. Some of these finishes will require work well together. Some of them, don't work well together. But let's go and make this black anodize. Pricing and lead time updates. And if I add any features, you'll see in a second here that I'll start to yell at me. So if I need threads and tapped holes, it's going to ask for a technical drawing. So adding threads and tapped holes will be enough for us to see how our pricing dynamically changes. But again, what you're making here is your love letter to your manufacturer, and you need to make sure that you're adding attachments that are comparable to the part, that show you where those features are, where those tight tolerances are, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the same thing for tolerances, surface roughness callouts, any part markings, and especially if we're asking for inspection reports, obviously we'll need a technical drawing for this inspection. The other thing to note here, and I'm actually going to jump into a different file to show you a demonstration of configuring a higher detail part in a moment. The other thing to note on this is you can even give shop certifications. So some of these things show up in your box. Some of these things are have to do with the shop downstream effects. So ITAR is most obvious checkbox if you're working on ITAR export restricted work. This checkbox here will create an instant data silo that will make sure that this downflows only into our ITAR network. Same with, these are shop certifications like AS9100 for a aerospace parts. If you're working with CUI, JCP is a good checkbox for you. And then there's other things that may show up in your box. Like, so if I have insert, I'll click hardware certification. I'll get a hardware certification in the box with me. Same with material traceability, material certs, or COCs. Those are things that are documented both digitally as well as something that you'll be receiving with your parts. And as always, you can freeform and write notes in here as well. But your technical drawing is really where we're going to be reading the most out of this. Pause for a second, and I'm going to jump back to our dashboard. Give me a moment here. And let's just configure a part, and then we'll jump back to our presentation. So I'm going to click under recent uploads. And now under my account, I've already uploaded files. I have a digital inventory already started. That's just for me at this point. These are some files that I've recently uploaded, and I can click through and add them to the quote. So if you've already uploaded a file, it's best to go from recent uploads versus uploading fresh again. That just avoids duplication and helps with other things like revision control. I'm going to move through, and I have this test part here. So this is a CNC milled part. I'm going to click through and press configure, and note that I've already attached a drawing, but I have not configured this part fully yet. So I'm going to drag in front of us here the drawing. So this is what's attached to this digital file right now. What's great is every time like I make this part, this is permanently attached to this file, as it is my technical drawings as well. I can see here I'm on the highlight. So my materials 6061 I have, that's great. Finish is standard, so I don't have any extra finishes like an anodize, for example, to this. Machine break, that's normal, that's workmanship there, but it does have machine engrave or laser mark and instructions there. So that's important. So we do know that that's going to be part marking. We also have information on tighter tolerances than our standards, which would be anything smaller than 5,000. So I have 1, 2 tighter tolerances here. I can also see that there are surface finishes that are below the standard as cut, which would be below 125 RA, so 32 and 16 respectively. And also on this, I have 2 threaded holes. So let's show you how that looks when I'm configuring my quote. All right, so I have a part, finished as standard, aluminum 6061, threads and tapped holes. We said quantity 2. You can see how pricing lead time changes. I don't have any inserts. I do have tolerances. And if I go back to my drawing here, I can see both these tolerances are plus or minus 1,000ths. So in 2 locations, I have a plus or minus 1,000 tolerance. So it's going to be asking me, first off, what's the tightest tolerances that we have of those? And it's that 1,000th. And how many locations is it? Boom. So say I had a plus or minus 4,000th and a plus or minus 1,000th tolerance. We need the tightest location and how many locations are tighter than our standard for that process. So any tighter than 5,000. So it'd still be 2 locations and the tightest being 1,000th. You can see how the pricing has changed dynamically. You can also see that I have surface roughness. So I do have a 16 RA surface roughness on my drawing, but I have 2 features that are smaller than 125. So in this case, this would be locations 2 as well. And you can make a decision here. So this drawing says engraving or laser mark. Let's take a look at how pricing looks at quantity 1. So engraving is done during the machining process, and it only adds like $8, $8 or $9 to this. If I moved to laser mark, you can see it adds about $20 to it. So depending on what your needs are, you can quickly compare, what pricing makes sense for here. So let's leave this as engraved. And I definitely, since I have these callouts, let's get a formal inspection report. So within my package, I'll get a formal inspection report with this part received. I'm going to click Save Properties. Give it a moment here. And now you can see my pricing lead time has dynamically updated. I could get this as quick as 5 business days at quantity 1. If I have some time to budget, I could get it, I could save a significant amount, especially if I'm able to make this internationally with our international economy option. You can see international is the origin there. If I want US made, I could choose my domestic economy as well. And just like everything else here, I could change my quantities. So let's say I need 16. You'll see how that pricing and lead time dynamically updates. Again, from a 3D prototype all the way to a turnkey production, you're talking seconds to fully configure a quote and get something orderable. So this is just significantly decreases the time and complexity of your RFQ and buy process. All right, so let me jump back to the presentation here and show you some other quote configuration tips, and then we're going to go on to our next tip here. Something that I personally will recommend is separating things that I have separated additive, machined, tooling into unique quotes, but what I really mean is separate things that have dramatically different lead times into unique quotes. So we may have additive manufacturing parts that you could get expedited as quick as 1 business day. But if you put that next to, say, a urethane cast component, urethane cast is going to be starting in that 3 to 4 weeks range. So your quote's going to have this 3 to 4 week overall lead time to it. So it's very nice, depending on how you can compartmentalize your project. If you separate out of those processes, it's not required, but it is useful to get more realistic lead times across these, especially when you have things that just have dramatically different lead times to them. Also, we have things that default to entire quotes, so domestic and international origin. So if I choose international economy, it'll try to default that across our entire quote. Something to note is some processes we don't have international options for, including additive manufacturing. So that may kind of throw a red flag on that quote. And again, the best thing to do is just separate out those things that are made domestic versus your international to kind of compartmentalize those. We also, I showed you some of this like in real time here, but I was showing you aluminum. I was showing you all those aluminum finishes like anodize down there. If I move to a steel, right, a steel alloy, it's going to show me different things, like a black oxide, for instance, versus anodize, because you can't anodize a steel. So we do have dynamic updates both from process level as well as material level. It's going to flow down to the finishes. So we do have that process material finish workflow for a reason, because just some things you could do with in manufacturing with one process or material, some things you could do with other materials. So we have that intuitively updating. And the other thing to note is, let me jump back to this, is don't be scared of manual quoting. So let me say, let's go back to this quote here. I'm going to pick up where I left off. And let's say, you know what? I really need this to be in a material that is not listed. So I'm looking for, well, now we have Ultim 2300. We keep on adding materials, so my demo materials aren't there. We keep on adding them there. So let's say I'm looking for a, unobtainium. I'm looking for a material that I don't necessarily see, or alloy class I don't necessarily see on this list here. I need this in titanium 23 ELI. So this, when you see other here and manual quote required, this does not mean that Xometry can't make it. We have 10,000 shops. If it's manufacturable, we could probably make it. What it means is we don't auto quote it. So whether it's material, finishes, or custom inspection requirements, we have certain things that will flag to a manual quote review. This also has to do with sometimes thresholds for quantity thresholds. Click that button, click request a manual quote, and we'll be able to review that. Our typical turn time for a manual quote review is anywhere from about 8 to 24 hours. And again, our team is here. If you have any questions, need help, just ask. So I spend a lot of time on that tip because that's the big one, right? That is the most important thing, because how you configure your quote is your statement of work to both Xometry and the manufacturer. When the manufacturer sees this job, they have something on what's called Xometry Work Center. They see that on the job board, and they're able to review those materials, features, and finishes as outlined and make a decision on saying, hey, do I want to take this work or not? When you leave something that's more ambiguous to there, you're leaving it open to interpretation. We really want to be as specific as possible to meet expectations. You know, my happiness is when what you think you're ordering is what I think you're ordering and what our supplier thinks they're making. And when all three are correct, we're great. So let's move into tip 2, though, which is something that's really useful for someone who's working on larger enterprise level projects, or if you're in a procurement or buying role. And that is another tool to upload files. It's our bulk upload tool. So on our instant quoting engine, we have 2 ways to quote. So drag and drop, that's the instant quote side. We also have this thing that says quote assemblies and production orders, and you click start your large order there. So that is our bulk upload tool. We built this in response to people that may require FTP servers or may have those zip files that may have 30, 40, 50 different parts with them that are linked in folders of folders with different drawings, and they need help setting that up. You can use that for technical data packages. Maybe it's an assembly work that has a statement of work. We want those CAD and drawings for everything you need, and maybe there's some integrations for a bill of materials, like off-the-shelf components to help produce those parts as well. Bulk upload is also really great when we need to add a line item, such as this for assembly work or weldments, where we need to add a line item placeholder for that upper level work with the subcomponents listed underneath of that. Bulk upload is perfect for that, as well as anything that's like a custom integration to work through those value add services. So usually we're seeing bulk upload jobs on the multi-line item quotes, where as someone who's asking for that isn't the direct engineer designing that work, it's usually the procurement lead trying to source that work. And this is the exchange of something where they may be sending it through their secure FTP server, which, by the way, we're able to work with as well, but this is a very useful feature for us, and it digitizes it, and we're able to work through it on platform and then respond to your quotes. There is added time. Obviously, it's not the instant side of the instant quoting engine, but we do have a sales operations team who's regularly setting up quotes on behalf of our customers, and then it's going through our quoting team for review before going back out to our customer. Incredibly useful tool, especially if you're in a multi-team corporate level and you're sourcing for a team that you're not directly designing for. When you upload via bulk upload, we're going to ask you some questions, including manufacturing material needs, part quantities, export restrictions, any cert requirements. So say this is for automotive manufacturing, you may require that IATF certification that we just were awarded. And we want to make sure that we have downflow requirements into our connected supplier as well to keep everything tight-knit there. And any additional information, we have kind of a free write area as well to help that discussion. So really recommend the bulk upload tool, especially when you have a more larger complex process. But for like 95% of the time, the instant quoting engine is going to be the most self-serving option that you have. So tip number 3 is using some of these features that we have, including the replace part for revision control. You have a digital library. As you upload those files, like I showed you under your account, you can go to my account, go to my parts, and you can see that you have a parts library. If you have a new revision of that file, you can click Update Part on your parts library, and then go in and update that file, and you'll see a refresh, and then you'll see the new image of your part. And then also make sure to replace the technical drawing if you have a drawing for that as well. And every single non-ordered quote that you have with that file on it will automatically update in real time. This is very important for us, especially when we're thinking about revision controls and ordering and processing of parts. We do send repeat work to the same supplier. So if you're super satisfied with your first job, and you want that consistent experience, we want it too. And we have tools and technology in place to help make that happen. That internal part ID that we assign to your part, if you're using that revision control, stays with that part. And it makes sure that even if it's an up rev, it'll go directly to that supplier as an exclusive offer to give you a more consistent experience. It's a win-win because suppliers like they love seeing repeat work and doing that work again. And for you, you're able to get a more consistent experience because shop to shop, even though things may be directly to spec, there are sometimes some nuances on finishing passes and other tool approaches. And if you go part to part, you may see those nuances as well. So this is super, super useful. Parts library is a great way to update your revision, but you can also update it right on your quoting page in the quote or part configuration page, right by where you see that preview of your file. There's a little button that says revise CAD, and it'll do the same function. Just note that when you do replace parts, that you do want to replace your PDF drawing as well, because that will get overwritten with the assumption that if it's a new rev, the PDF drawing is outdated. And tip number 4 is just another really powerful one as we're growing here, which is utilizing Teamspace. So Xometry has created a super cool tool to help multiple team members working on the same project gain visibility. We call it Teamspace. And Teamspace is accessible to anybody right now who has an account at Xometry. This is a tool that allows you to invite others to your team or be invited to a team as well. Share your quotes across teams. So say you are a procurement lead and you have multiple team members. So say you have 4 or 5 people all working on this sales order or this job order or this project, and you want to have visibility on what's quoted, what's not quoted, what's on order, when did it ship, has it shipped yet, what's going on with it, and want that overall visibility. We created Teamspace just for that. And actually, this was a really great project we worked on over the last year here at Xometry, where we were getting these demands by our highest level enterprise customers. You're talking a procurement leads where you may have hundreds of people quoting through Xometry and hundreds of orders happening independently through Xometry. And the procurement person's like, that's great. I love the value that Xometry adds, but what's going on with our parts? So we created Teamspace to allow them to have this consolidated view based on different teams or segments or however they want to label it. And creating a team is pretty simple here. So I'm going to jump back. And again, I told you I would be alt-tabbing a lot here at during this demo, and I'm back to my dashboard here. So I could jump straight into a team that I have, and I may jump into here in just a moment, but you can also jump into your account. Again, if I click account, I can see my quote history, my order history, go to that library that we're talking about, or I can click account settings. So I'm going to click that right here. And you can see some of my account details here. And you can see that I'm on a team. I can create a new team as well and name that team and invite people into that team. So that's something that I'm able to do. But I also have just my team that I could jump into. But that's going to be how you create a team. I'm going to click into the team that I have here, which I call Xometry Video Projects, because I work on a lot of our videos and our content here at Xometry as well. And I'm also working with my colleague Joel, who's also building some cool CAD models that we use for our videos and testing. So we've invited my demo account to this team, and now we have this view. So I could see some information from our Teamspace dashboard, file quotes in progress, what's been shipped. So right now I have nothing that's running actively, but I do have a lot of shipped orders coming through. And I can see team recent quotes. I could even create a quote straight from this team. So if I start a quote here, it will start a new team quote. It'll be visible to everybody in this team. Every member of this team can also share a quote using the share feature on the quote on the instant quote. So you click share. Instead of putting an email, they could just click on the team that they're already part of, and it'll show up and give visibility. This shows up for quotes, so things that are not yet ordered and their status. So you can see here, I have some files here, and I can take a look at these quotes and status and sort them from based on my needs or filters. I could also export this information as a CSV if I'm tracking in my own way and import that CSV to see what's going on with these projects. And again, I could go into my orders. Now let's say I want to, search here for Robo games. Oh, here you go. So we did some signs for last year's Robo games here, stencil where we uploaded a DXF, cut it on a sheet, and they use that as a spray paint stencil during the project. And you can see just very quickly how accessible that is. So when you're managing multiple parties, you're working on a product development team, if you're procurement or anything in between, there's 1,000 reasons to make a team. And it's free and it's easy and it's just a click and drop down experience. So I really recommend that to help just organize your life a little bit if it's you plus one. Honestly, even if it's just you, you can make a team around a project and share specifically those quotes to that project to consolidate your view on how you're using. But 99% of the time, it's going to be you plus, N amount of employees working through. So again, just really powerful tool. And we're adding more and more features on this platform every day. Like I know we're adding things where you can download digital documentation. So whether that's inspection reports, certificate of conformances, or things on shipped products. So now you have a digital trail as well as that paper trail that comes along with your shipped parts. And I showed you how to make a team here. So the fifth tip that I have is very similar to the replace part feature, which is use copy order. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to keep that part revision as much as possible. So knowing that a part is a repeat part, because it just helps enhance our sourcing capabilities and give you as a customer more, a more consistent experience order to order. So just like we do with that file revision, copy order keeps trace of your internal part ID. So if I copy order and then reorder it, everything should be the same. Same suppliers, same setups, it's a consistent experience. You can copy order and still as an open quote and manipulate things on it, but as long as you're not manipulating major things like a process or origin, you'll still be linked back to that previous supplier in most cases there. You can copy order by going to your quote or order summary, clicking those three dots, drop downs, and just click copy order there. And that's going to be a straightforward way, but it's something I want to recommend because I do this all the time when I'm looking at quotes, or say I'm interested in, like, I want to quote it in one process, but I also want to see what it's like in FDM. I may quote a CNC part, copy order, or copy my quote, and then change it into a 3D printing process there and check pricing. So I don't need to manipulate one or the other there. I'm just able to kind of make some quick decisions. Really useful tool, something I use very, very frequently. What's new is, say you have a part that has been made before, and for whatever reason, we don't detect it. We have now just added a manual toggle that you could do in the quote and toggle it through to repeat part. And what that's going to do is raise a little flag for our team to say, who made this last, and make sure we align that with the previous supplier. That's a brand new feature that we have, and it's something that's just very useful. If you press copy order, the parts will already be flagged with that copy quote flag, or that repeat part flag. But sometimes, for whatever reason, say you upload a fresh file, but that in the past you've made a rev of it, that repeat part flag is very useful and something you could self-serve as well on the instant quoting engine. And that'll be right above quantity. So my sixth tip is talk to us. Oh my gosh, talk to us. We have a digital platform. You could use us, you could interact with us as much or as little as you want. So much is automated Xometry, but that allows us to really focus on the things that need focus. So we have dedicated engineering staff here at Xometry that are specialists in every single vertical that we offer. And we're able to dive deep into your project and create value-add solutions. If you order from Xometry, you're already going to have a sales lead. If you are in a company with multiple people through Xometry, you're going to have a consolidated point of contact, both on the pre-sale, so before purchase, as well as the post-sales, that operations side. Our goal is your success. We're happy when these projects go successful, and you're happy with that as well. So we have our team available. If you may already know your sales account lead. If you don't, you could also send to support@xometry.com, and we'll get you connected with your account lead as well. But we have this amazing staff in-house. We're talking, on the injection molding side, mold masters, scientific molders, people who run simulation or come from like medical product development design, working through. We have tool makers. We have people who work in sheet and stamping. We have groups that work in CNC machining, or 40-plus-year expert machinists, and it's all within Xometry, right at our fingertips, and something that you can access as well as you're looking for feedback or looking for some value-add solutions. So that is definitely a tip that I want to put out there, because we do have a lot of automation, but it doesn't mean that we're a robot. To do what we need to do, we need to have the expertise in-house, period. And on that, I'm trying to save some time here for some questions at the end. I already see some questions coming in, but please feel free to get your put some questions in as well in the Q&A section here. And with that, I'm going to be moving to tip 7, which is Xometry's resources. When I went to Xometry.com, I showed you a little bit of where those resources are found on our main homepage, and I'll jump there in just a moment as well. But we try to make a lot of resources to help you make better manufacturing decisions. We have a choice at Xometry. We're not just a shop with 1 or 2 processes. We try to fit everything into those 1 or 2 processes. We have the gamut of manufacturing at our fingertips. So there's a lot of value that we could add and help you learn about with different scaling technologies. But you may not know anything about die casting, right? You may be machining work, but now you have a quantity 1200 job or a quantity 12,000 job, and you're like, okay, what can I do next here? And that's where you could go to our die casting capabilities page, look at some resources, learn a little bit about how to design, what's needed for it, and help modify your design, or even talk to our staff about this as well. We built a lot of online tools and resources, whether that's video, downloadable guides, or a blog post to really help educate you and build that information. I'm going to Alt-Tab. I'm going to jump over actually to this little hamburger menu on the left, because it's going to take me back to the main site here. But going back to Xometry.com's main site here, our main resources are available under these drop-downs. I highly recommend starting here if you're diving into a process. So we have solutions page for every process that we're looking at. And let's say you're interested in learning about multi-jet fusion, the 3D printing process we highlighted earlier. You could click on that solutions page and think about this as a train station. It has all these pieces of resources and ways to go and learn more about, dive deeper into the process, whether that's materials, downloadable resources, sizes and tolerances, downloading technical guides. We have that all available, so you could go and learn more about these processes. The resources page that we have as well, some of our most popular pages are materials and finishes page. I specifically love under finishes, we have galleries. So you click on, for example, our metal finishes gallery. So that was resources, finishes, metal finishes gallery. And you go and kind of see different finish options that are available on a what will it look like scale. So just really useful things like that are something that you can go and look through on Xometry's resources, and it's self-serving, and we even have a nice little search bar to help you find some of that information as well. But I just want to show you, we have a lot of tools available there. And great, I see some questions coming in, so please keep on asking questions. And with that, I just want to highlight a case study that we have that shows someone that's utilizing Xometry to the fullest. So Rivet is an electric bike company. They actually use Xometry. So as they're building this product, they were launching their Rivet Anthem, which is their flagship e-bike. And you can see it's kind of had this nice mix of kind of conformal curvature with a more industrial design, so sheet design here. They needed a production partner. These people were fantastic designers. They're looking to get this product to market, but they didn't necessarily have someone who was a supply chain lead. Xometry jumped in, and they were able to build a lot of these components for this e-bike, not just build and prototype, right, but build and create a sustained production line to secure that supply chain. So with this rivet case study, we ended up using sheet metal for some of these components you can see on the outside here, injection molding for some of the more cosmetic, curved features, die casting on some of the engine components, including some pretty ridiculous die casts, and much more. So they were even using the additive manufacturing, fit checks, and prototyping, and everything in between. But this is the type of projects that we see at Xometry, is these projects where they need that end. They need someone that makes supply chain easy. They need someone that consolidates their amount of vendors and takes care of the quality assurance. And that's really where we stand strong at Xometry. The one last thing is we've been talking about the instant quoting engine. And I do want to highlight that with or something that accompanies our IQE is also the add-ins that we have. If you're designing in SolidWorks, Onshape, or Autodesk Fusion, there are free add-ins available through Xometry site. Again, click on that resources tab, click on CAD add-ins, and you'll get links to each one of these. These are free tools, and they have some really cool aspects to them. So not only can you use them within your instance, within your CAD instance, to see pricing and lead time as updates. So you can actually check the price of a feature, like add some fillets and requote and see how expensive that would be to add those fillets there. But you can also see DFM feedback. So we have a more advanced DFM feedback on our CAD add-ins that may show things like thin wall features, sharp internal corners on machine parts, inaccessible areas, and raise flags for you to change and update in your design before sending it out to manufacturer. So it's a really useful tool to have. It's something that accompany as a sidekick while you're working through. So on that note, I'm going to jump into Q&A. And let me just open up our Q&A tab real quickly here. And we'll run through. And someone mentioned, by the way, or just was asking very early on, will this be recorded? Yes, we do have a recording, and we'll be sending that out at the or in a couple of days here. So once we get that through and edited out, so that's good to have. And someone asked really quickly, while it's relevant, where is the resource tab? So let me jump back to Xometry's homepage here. We have a consistent header across our homepage. Resources is right here. So click on resources. You can see, for example, we were talking about CAD add-ins. You can see where to access those CAD add-ins and other things like our FAQs, blog, etc. If you're looking for something specific, we also have a live search bar here. That's very helpful as well. And by the way, write this down for you. We have a promo code that you can use on your next order for $25 off for any order over $100 or more. So this promo code is just for you all at the webinar. So what else do I have? What other questions do we have? So, okay, a great question. With a drawing for tapped holes, how detailed does that drawing need to be? All dimensions or just hole specs? So when you think about your technical drawing, think about what is not embedded with the CAD. And I'm not necessarily talking about part modeling information. That's a different topic altogether. But we already know the geometry. We already know the holes. We already know the walls, the surfaces of this part. So we have that information. What I need are the things that will raise a flag. So if it is a tolerance, I want it to be a tolerance that is either critical, like critical to quality tolerance, or a tolerance that is tighter than our standard. So something that you would have to call out differently on the quote configuration page. For tapped holes, we definitely want to have those tapped holes call out. Specifically, I want the tapped hole size, possibly the quality side, like the quality of the tapped hole that you have, like I think like HB or something like that. And then also the thread depth. We usually don't assume through unless it's written through. And that's not Xometry as a whole, that's the manufacturing as a community. So if you do have a through tap on a longer hole, that's important to call out specifically. But most of the time, mechanically, 3 to 4 engagements are what's doing all the work in a tapped hole. So you don't need a full through tap to that. So we do want to understand what the depth requirements are for those. Something else to note on your CAD model is you do want to design your CAD for that minimum hole diameter on that tapped hole, or if it's a outer thread for that maximum size, because we do need something to cut into. So that needs to be defined within your CAD itself. Someone asks on the revision updates, will the old version still be available on the Xometry site? Yes, asterisk. So it does replace that file. And for you as a customer, you can't toggle back to that rev, but if necessary, speak to staff and we can essentially replace that rev back if there's an issue there. Something actually someone noted that they were seeing a European website. So you're probably in Europe or in an area where Xometry Europe is offering. So Xometry is a global company. Depending on where you are, your URL may have updated. So if you went to xometry.com and you're in Europe, or it may be updating to xometry.eu. So that's why. So xometry.com is North America, .eu is Europe. And then we also have .asia, which is an Asia to Asia manufacturing network. And we're also serving Australia as well. So we had a great question here. So how to confirm my design is valid for 3D printing for a non-expert user? Who takes on the risk? This is something really important about Xometry's quality plans in our workflow. So 3D printing is a very design forgiving process. You're able to add, I have a part in front of me right here, where you're able to add a bunch of complex features together, and typically they work in Unity as long as you're hitting things like minimum wall features, etc. So the first part of this is that resources side. So the first line of defense is if you're not familiar with 3D printing processes, you can use our design guides under that capabilities page, find the design guides, and that's going to help you make sure your design is appropriate for the process in which you're selecting. We also do have what we call our DFM team. So post-order, we also often will look at files, so particularly on the CNC machine parts, but even for some additive parts, and flag anything that may become a downstream issue. We want to catch that as soon as possible versus it being something that's going to happen right before the ship date, right? So our goal is quality and timeliness on those parts. But ultimately, if the part is not designed for the process selected, we try to flag and catch that as much as possible. But the best course of action is researching and learning a little bit about that design process itself, and modifying that design for that. Even if, in SOLIDWORKS, for example, I may design something for one process like injection molding, but for a 3D printing prototype, I may make a new configuration where I may thicken walls or change some features to make it more amicable for that process. Someone's asking, all right, can you show me? So by the way, I love people asking, can you show me? Because that's what I'm here for, is alt-tabbing and showing you ways to compare different manufacturing methods for a particular part. So in the quote page here, so I'm going to go back to get your instant quote, and back to my dashboard here. I'm just click on recent uploads, and let's say, actually, let me go back to, I'm going to click case here. So let's say I'm making this case top and case body, and I click add files, press confirm. So this is just like a lid and a body. Like the preview, unfortunately, is showing the back of it, but you can just see a very simple body that would maybe be holding a PCB on this. I'm going to run in really quickly and just add a little bit of configuration. So it already has thread and tab tools. So remember from my last quote, I will need to provide a drawing, but let's just talk about comparing processes. So right now, this is a machine part, and I'm at quantity 4, and you can see maybe it's prohibitively expensive for what I'm looking for, especially if I'm doing something low volume or that's lower fidelity. Let's see how I can reduce this price. So I could go back to configure part. I could look at the process and materials. On CNC, I think you're going to be this is going to be on the bottom of the pricing here on CNC, but let's move to something like plastic 3D printing. And very quickly, using this preview up here, I could just take a peek and see, all right, well, what happens if I, 3D print this out of polycarbonate? And you can see this has gone down to $34 each. So that's FDM polycarbonate. Let me see, well, maybe SLS will be cheaper. So I'm at $34 each. Let's move the nylon 12 here. I'm at 42 each. Okay, well, let's run back to FDM. And you're able to very quickly review and see that information and change that around. So that's a good way to kind of price preview. If you don't want to commit, you can always press cancel, and it's going to restore where you left off. So that's a great way to do some very quick on-the-spot comparisons of pricing as you're working around, because you're able to see that change in real time. I also wanted to highlight here, because this is a fun one. So this one was originally put in as sheet metal, but it's a flat part. So you can actually see some feedback here saying, hold up, we don't think this is a bent sheet part. We just think it's a flat part. So why don't you check out, instead, why don't you check out sheet cutting? So I'm going to change from sheet metal to sheet cutting. And I'll choose like aluminum here. And now it's like, all right, we're cool now. And so you can see that it gave a little flag about something that didn't match the process, like features that did not match the process. And now I moved to appropriate process and getting appropriate pricing for that part as well. Okay, someone's asking about the lead time. What does the lead time mean? All right, so the lead time is the days until shipping. So let's say in this case, I have this part, I'm expediting, or I'm gonna put it on standard lead times, and it's 5 business days until shipping. So when I continue the checkout, and I'll use the Xometry address here. I'll look at this, we're even giving you recommendations on the USPS approved addresses that we have. No tax exemptions, this is not ITAR, but you can see here that you choose your shipping method during the checkout process. So in this case, this has a free shipping method, which would be a ground shipping here. So you can see this is by Thursday, April 4th. Or if I do need it sooner, I could choose from a next day or second day air option as well, that you could toggle through. So when you see that lead time is the ship date, and then you as the customer can choose from the options on what works best for your schedule on the delivery, because that's going to be next day air, second day air, or ground typically. All right. So with that, I think we're at 2:02. Unless I get any last minute questions. Anything that I didn't cover from you? If I know a few have asked questions on this. If I didn't cover you during this time, I'm gonna actually reach out to you directly and answer some of your information as well. But I really hope that you were able to get something, some value out of this. You may have been using Xometry as a coding engine and realize, wow, I could do so much more with this, or I could dive so much deeper. And that's the whole point of today, is just showing you everything that you could do with the coding engine, whether it's self-service or escalating to our team or in between. We have some really wonderful tools on this platform. Our goal at Xometry is to give you a digital experience for your custom manufacturing. We want to consolidate your supply chain. We want to allow you to just not stress about that production line. We'll take care of it. We assure quality, we assure timeliness on the parts that we produce. Again, a reminder for this promotion that we have. Please, feel free, even give it a try. I hope some of you are actually alt-tabbing and giving it a try right now on the quoting engine. And as always, we're here to support you and answer any questions you have. So thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and have a wonderful day.